The story is told that one Sunday, Calvin Coolidge, one-time President of the United States, and a man noted for few words, returned from church. His wife asked him what the preacher spoke about. He replied, "Sin." "What did he say?" she asked. "He was against it," was his reply. I think I could answer the question concerning gambling just that briefly. We're against it. Gambling is to be found almost everywhere and is growing in commonplace everywhere. People play poker. They bet on horse races and dog races. They play roulette and work the slot machines. They gather to play in bars, saloons, and casinos, and all too often in their own homes. Many cannot leave it alone. It becomes addictive. In so many cases, it leads to other destructive habits and practices. And so very many of those who become involved cannot afford the money it takes. In many cases, it robs wives and children of financial security. From the early days of this church, gambling has been denounced. As far back as 1842, Joseph Smith described conditions when the saints lived in Missouri. Said he, "We made large purchases of land, our farms teemed with plenty, and peace and happiness were enjoyed in our domestic circle and throughout our neighborhood. But as we could not associate with our neighbors in their midnight revels, their Sabbath-breaking, horse racing, and gambling, they commenced at first to ridicule, then to persecute, and finally an organized mob assembled and burned our houses, tarred and feathered and whipped many of our brethren, and finally, contrary to law, justice, and humanity, drove them from their habitations." Brigham Young, in October 1844, said this concerning Nauvoo: "We wish to suppress all grog shops, gambling houses, and all other disorderly houses or proceedings in our midst, and to tolerate no intemperance or vice in our midst." Presidents of the church and counselors in the presidency have repeatedly spoken concerning this evil. George Q. Cannon, counselor to 3 presidents of the church, said, "There are many evils in the world which young folks need to be guarded against. One of these is gambling. There are various forms of this evil, but they are all bad and should not be indulged in." President Joseph F. Smith stated, "The church does not approve of gambling, but strongly condemns it as morally wrong, and classes also with this gambling games of chance and lottery of all kinds, and earnestly disapproves of any of its members engaging therein." President Heber J. Grant counseled, "The church has been and now is unalterably opposed to gambling in any form whatever. It is opposed to any game of chance, occupation, or so-called business which takes money from the person who may be possessed of it without giving value received in return. It is opposed to all practices, the tendency of which is to degrade or weaken the high moral standard which the members of the church and our community at large have always maintained." President Spencer W. Kimball said, "From the beginning, we have been advised against gambling of every sort. The deterioration and damage comes to the person whether he wins or loses to get something for nothing, something without effort, something without paying the full price." Elder Dallin H. Oaks, who's with us tonight, in 1987 delivered a masterful discourse on this subject at what was then Ricks College. It was entitled Gambling, Morally Wrong and Politically Unwise. To these statements of the position of the church, I add my own. The pursuit of a game of chance may seem like harmless fun, but there attaches to it an intensity that actually shows on the faces of those who are playing. And in all too many cases, this practice, which appears innocent, can lead to an actual addiction. The church has been and is now opposed to this practice. If you have never been involved in poker games or other forms of gambling, don't start. If you are involved, then quit now while you can do so.